Motor racing is the ultimate meritocracy. You do well, you get seen more, you're at the sharp end of the field. But to do that requires dedication. All the technology in the world will not help you. It's about the human interest at the end of it. Endurance sports car racing is populated by manufacturers spending hundreds of millions of euros, dollars or yen to be here. You are looking, quite simply, at the most technologically advanced racing cars in the world. These cars go around corners as fast or faster than a Formula One car. But ultimately, the piece of humanity that you plug into all of that technology does make the difference. And that's why this is such a great sport. At Le Mans, in terms of competitive hours, there's more competitive driving at a higher average speed than the whole Formula One season put together. And yet, we still have the gentleman driver competing.
Aston Martin, what a job they've done, leading their class, and Paul Dalla, not one of the pro drivers, given the honour of bringing it home.
We accept that the pro drivers are of such a great level that they almost cancel each other out. So the difference between winning and losing is your gentleman driver, which I find fascinating.
Dalla in the 98 car, leading at Le Mans. This is what people dream about.
Great job, buddy, great job. 5 more perfect laps, okay? 5 more.
Oh, there's an Aston off. Oh, it's the 98. That's the class leader, Dalla. Oh, disaster. Tiny mistake, huge consequences, and the whole of the 98 team's hopes are smashed. Got to feel for Paul Dalla. A victory within his grasp, and it's all over in the blink of an eye.
We had a 2-lap lead, and I was tasked with doing something pretty simple, which was bringing the car home. And, you know, I think mentally I was there. Unfortunately, you know, physically I didn't get the job done. And you know, it's a high price to pay given how competitive this championship is. We haven't been able to recover.
Gentlemen drivers are drivers that are not professional, that are rich. They have lots of money. More money than sense.
Mike Conway coming up to pass an Aston Martin. Oh no, it's gone wrong.
While there is some good talent in the field, there is also some questionable talent, some questionable moves that happen during the race.
A little touch on the Toyota. Gets through, doesn't get through.
Some of them are better than others from what I can see. I've read it does cause a little bit of consternation with some of the more professional drivers sometimes.
The LMP3 car clatters into the air, of course, a Ferrari, and earns a drive-through.
A gentleman driver is somebody that pays for their drive rather than somebody paying them. I wish I was rich enough to be one too, but I'm not.
I believe that gentlemen drivers are part of the living tradition of this whole racing. They're flamboyant, they're not quite as programmed, they still do things wrong. The crowd loves people who screw up and spin the cars just occasionally. Thank God we have a few gentlemen drivers to do that for us.
Gentlemen drivers, for many years, the lifeblood of motorsport. As Henry Ford will have told you, the first motor race was when the second car was built. And quite often the guys who could afford cars were quite wealthy. So the original racing drivers ultimately were all gentlemen drivers. There were no pros in those days. That's kind of disappeared now. So the last great bastion of gentlemen drivers is in sports car racing, right up to and including World Championship level. They are a big part of the sport. One, because they bring money into the sport, but secondly, they also represent all of us, the fans, because if you have the wherewithal, you can buy a baseball team, You could buy an NFL franchise, but can you go out and quarterback it on a Sunday? Of course you can't. It would be ridiculous. Well, in this form of motor racing, you can do exactly that. If you're prepared to dedicate yourself to get to a decent level, you can race with the giants of the sport. Now, as the cars have become more sophisticated, quicker, the role of the gentleman driver has become more difficult. Rich businessmen just doing it for fun at the weekend, it's hard to do that now. In fact, it may well be impossible. And if you look down the years at people like Steve McQueen and Paul Newman, they took time out from their acting jobs to come and race. Patrick Dempsey now is a full-time driver and works once in a while as an actor. He's had to make that change to make his performance level appropriate to the World Championship.
Definitely racing is an addiction. You're taking risks, you're working off hours, you're traveling. It's not easy. It's not easy. So if you want to be there and you want to be good at it, it has to be passion.
I hate the term gentleman driver, so we're all drivers and we're all passionate about it. And some guys just started when they were 6 years old, and some of us picked it up later in life. But I've always wanted to be the best at whatever I try to do. And if you're not trying to win every time you're out there, then probably you need to go find something else to do.
As an entrepreneur, and certainly now in the racing world, it's a pretty demanding audience of one. Frankly, you have to look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, did I get it done or not? And that's what motivates me, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Racing's what gets me up in the morning, and I think I'm motivated and I push hard, but I think when I hear other people speak about me, they seem to think I push to the point of, just insanity. But I just think it's normal. For me, it's just what you have to do.
I think to be successful in anything, sport or business, there has to be a part of your brain that says, I can do this better. Better than him, her, them, better than I just did it. And the quest for perfection is something that motor racing is pretty much all about.
We were here 2 years ago, and we did very, very well. And so we have all this data from 2 years ago, and then my data from this last Friday. So what we do is you overlay it, my steering traces, my brake pressures, and my throttle. Turn 1 all the way to turn 20. This data is absolutely imperative. I mean, you're talking a tenth of a second here, a tenth of a second there. 20 laps, or 20 corners, 1/10 of a second is 2 seconds, right? It's all data driven, everything. Business is, this is. I got my profit and loss statements in via email last night, so I'm forecasting taxes. That's what I was doing actually in my hotel room. I thought I was taking time off, but I really was doing analysis, on my accounting. And now, as of this morning, I turned that all off, and now I'm on data here. So my life goes from one to the next. It just never stops, never stops.
What you've got to understand about gentleman drivers is that they're an integral part of the sport. Without the injection of finance that they bring, some of the teams simply wouldn't be able to exist and wouldn't be able to go racing. And so it's been recognised because there is a class, both in GT and in the prototype classes, where you are mandated to have a non-professional driver in the car. And I think that gives something to the sport. It doesn't take something away, it adds, and I think that's what brings in some of the fans, because they look at that and think, if only I had the money, I'd be doing exactly the same thing.
None of these corners are really late apex, Ricky.
What's the breaking point?
It's a 75. It's deep.
You kind of brake release carrying speed into the apex, looking for the apex. This extra speed will help you, the rear will help you turn the car. It's a ritual to do a track walk before each event. To take the gentleman driver to a track walk is really important, because we as a pro driver kind of help explain them how to take each corner. They look at corners like racing drivers, but sometimes they also look at corners as businessmen.
It's actually showing me in the computer where to brake. I don't know if he's right or not. We'll see tomorrow.
Ultimately, the car and the stopwatch doesn't know whether it's a gentleman driver in that car or someone who's a superstar. Once the helmet goes on, it makes no difference at all. And so part of the pro driver's job when they are teamed up with someone who is a non-pro driver is to give them help, advice, and to make them quicker and more consistent. Because as a race car driver, you sent off down the pit lane, you might have 20 seconds to get yourself sorted out, then off with the pit lane speed limiter, and everything's got to happen at 100% straight away, because if it's not, you're losing time to your competitors. Now, the pro drivers do that as a matter of course. The best amateur drivers build up to that.
In WEC, we're racing with top teams, and so there's a lot to be learned. And I think it would be an error not to be like a sponge. And it's a team, and at the end, if one wins, we all win.
I don't remember this being so downhill.
Yeah, you don't feel it in the car.
Downhill is great for you because more weight, the faster you go.
The first time I'm going to be faster than you.
Human beings are a competitive species. We cooperate in teams, but we have always competed against the other. Now, an entrepreneur is in a very competitive environment because in order to succeed, they actually have to allow their company to do better than everybody else. And I think when you've had success at that, when you've had success at competition, then you actually like to bring that out in other facets of your life. When you extend yourself in a new area, it actually feeds back on what you do professionally because you realize, hey, I was able to acquire this new skill, so why can't I solve some big problem that I'm facing in the workplace? I know I can do it because I'm able to do it in these other areas.
I think what joins racing and business for me is being able to take that pressure and then perform the same. Yeah, I started racing when I was 10 years old, go-karts, and got hooked, and then started the whole ladder. I raced up until 2001. That's when life said, no more. No more sponsorship, there's no more support. I had already 2 kids, so I had to focus back into work. And I decided to start from scratch, support from nobody. Definitely was not easy, but I was sure I could do it.
In order not to suffer, at that point I didn't even watch racing in TV. 7 years after, an opportunity to race came back, and my business partner sponsored me. And now I was going back to racing just to have fun. And it was after the first or second race that I realized I cannot do it just to have fun. I have to be competitive.
I like to think where I want to be, what I want to accomplish, and then understand how I get there. And sometimes I just drop a lot of ideas. So right now I'm working on bringing the first U.S. university campus to Mexico. It is a branch of Arkansas State, a full-blown campus, which includes dorms, all the fitness and sport area, and also the classrooms. The first time I saw the project, I was hooked. I think if you want to really help and leave something behind for Mexico and revolutionize education in Mexico, which is what Mexico needs right now, for me this was the opportunity to do it.
This is the student union. We are here, and in here we have the cafeteria. All these will be a huge new city.
You become the bridge, basically,
Yes.
from the academic to the,
Yes.
to the corporate side.
Ricardo, this is phenomenal. I mean, it's unbelievable. You and I talked about this maybe 60 days ago. The progress you've made in 60 days, incredible, incredible.
Every week it changes.
Some days he's in China, and when he finished racing, he texts how he's doing everything over there. I think he don't sleep.
There are a lot of connection between racing and business. When I was 17, I moved up to Formula 3. That's where there's a whole team behind you, there's people working for you, there's a contract. Being under that pressure at that age, it definitely starts to prepare you. By the time I sat for the first time in a desk to do a contract for my company, I had a lot of experience in dealing with the negotiation, and I don't know if I was better, but at least it made me feel more comfortable.
I've been working with Ricardo Gonzalez for about 6 years now. I'm his driver manager, so I basically manage his racing life while he's worrying about his business life. The racing world, you know, it's a small circle, so basically everybody kind of knows each other. It's one big circus that travels around the world together. Being around the racing business has given me the opportunity to meet guys like Ed Brown, Paul Dallalana, Mike Gouache, and even though we're different teams and we're competing against each other, one year you'll be with one team, and then another year will be with another team, so you end up, you know, becoming friends with the people that you were racing against the year before. It's long-term relationships for sure.
For me, the thing that, you know, racing has provided, which is a weird thing, is you know, sort of an escape almost, right? Like it's provided, you know, a mental shift. So, you know, it's taken me a number of years to be able to go there and just completely forget everything else, you know? And I don't know how, when you started, if you felt that you'd come to the track, you'd be doing your business, you're in the middle of everything.
No, that's what I loved about it, though. Because, like, if I went and played golf or I did whatever, somebody could email me or text me or whatever or call me. But in the race car, they can't do that. So it was the biggest release I ever had.
Totally, right?
And people don't understand, I'm more relaxed in the race car than when I'm not.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
For me also, I would leave my cell phone for 3 or 4 hours. Going to races is a shift completely, everything.
What's been good for me in racing in Europe is that the time, we're so far ahead. Basically, when the day's over, the day starts in California. So, like, I don't have to watch my phone all day because no one's emailing me or no one's awake. Yeah. So, when I'm over there during the day, it's really relaxing. If I can just control the evenings, I'll be okay.
The Lone Star Le Mans at the Circuit of the Americas this weekend is the start of the second half of the season. It's the time of the season where the championship run starts to come together. Get the results, rack up the points, and hopefully by the time we get to Bahrain, then you're in a pretty good state to challenge for the championship.
There's a lot going on this weekend here. Ricardo tries to focus on the racing, but a bit of a secret project that Ricardo and I have been working on is to bring a WEC event to Mexico, which would be huge. You know, Mexico is a huge market for racing and for all the manufacturers involved. And we're literally here in very last-minute negotiations with the WEC and with the promoters in Mexico to make that happen. We're going to go have another meeting right now. You know, and that's the life of a gentleman driver. There's a lot that happens basically at a racetrack that has nothing to do with racing. It's all business, and vice versa.
As we wait for the red lights to go out and the clock to start counting down from 6 hours, we're racing at the Circuit of the Americas, and the pole-sitting car of Neil Jarney gets the inside line. Each of the classes battling for their own podium, and in LMP2, keep your eyes on this battle. The pair of orange and grey G-Drive cars have been hunted down from behind by the black and green Tequila Patron ASM. This is going to be a battle royale in LMP2. It's not just about the glamour boys in the hybrids. This matters as well.
I'm pretty good, you know. I don't get in for another, hour. So I stay pretty calm until I get my helmet on, and then I'll probably get, a little anxious.
Johannes van Overbeek in the 31 ESM Patron LMP2. It's not been the smoothest of races for them. They've had one or two mechanical problems. Into the pit lane for Johannes van Overbeek. That's on schedule for the 31. It will be fuel, tyres and a new driver. Ed Brown will take it into the race. Now remember, every driver on the team has to be in the car for at least an hour and 15 minutes.
I had no confidence in the car at the beginning. Tell Ed if he starts complaining, like it felt like the suspension fell out of the car sometimes.
Like when they comes
from the fender came down.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Huge. So tell Ed you just gotta drive through it.
Multi-class racing at its best. GT car on the right. We're on board with an LMP2 car, and watch to the left. There's an LMP1 hybrid. Marvellous. Oh, huge off at the final corner. That was one of the Patron cars. It's the 31. It's Ed Brown. Massive hit.
Like a pretty good hit.
Yeah. Shit. He doesn't have any brakes. Oh my God.
Good thing he didn't roll. Ed went off in the last corner, but we don't know why. He said no brakes. That's what it looked like on the video. So we'll see.
I actually was moving pretty good through 19.
You got some serious air. I mean, that went way up.
I never saw. No, the other problem was when I hit, the steering wheel flew off and hit me in the chest.
The steering wheel
came off.
We're going to take it down there. We're going to look at it and see what it's up. I'm sure you're okay?
Halfway through the race, the sun is going down in Texas, but the racing is heating up.
So it's halfway through the race, about 3 hours left. Ricardo just finished his stint, so he's done for the day. Ricardo was in 4th place when he came in. Right now, I think we're in 6th place, but it's hard to tell because people have to pit still. And in about 30 minutes, we'll know exactly where we are. I'm not sure what happened to Ed. The way he crashed was pretty extreme. So usually when you see something like that, it means there's some kind of mechanical problem or something. So, it sucks for them. But their other car is running pretty good, so at least Patron will be happy.
Racing's a miserable sport sometimes, but I've crashed before where it's my fault, and you feel worse. When it's a mechanical failure like that, it's part of racing, and you just hope that we can find the issue that happened and that hopefully not ever let it happen again. No scratches, no bumps, all's good. Drinking some Patron and relaxing, taking a little of the bruising away.
Almost at the end of the 6 hours of the Americas, but still battling going on in the darkness. And G-Drive goes round the outside. That's a pass for position in LMP2. What drama in the closing minutes. Careful through traffic. Porsche being lapped. And there's almost a touch. My goodness, that was close. At the end of the 6 hours of the Americas, LMP2 goes to G-Drive. KCMG 47 is in second. And then the second of the G-Drive cars onto the podium for Gustavo Yackerman, Pipo Durrani and Ricardo Gonzalez.
At the end, very good for the team. We have been lately struggling, and for us to be 1 and 3, I think it's very good news for the team. Winning is important to me, and definitely that's why I'm here. I like to win. So you take that back to the office, and it's not that you're gonna go and get that podium or that trophy at the end of the day, but you get a longer version of it. So anything you do in business world and how you develop yourself will stay for you for the rest of your life.
I think every human being would hope that they never had failure in life, but I always tell my employees, in really good times, you learn absolutely nothing because it all went right. So what did you have to learn? It's in the hard times and the times that you fail is when you learn the most. Whether it's failure to run a lap time that I wanted to run, or a ran that didn't do as well as I thought it was, I learn, and I learn every single day at everything that I do. So that's important. Without failure, you can't have success.
We are trained to minimize the number of mistakes we make in life, and that may help you to succeed in school, but it doesn't really help you to succeed in life. Because success in life isn't about never making mistakes. It's about recovering from the mistakes that you make. People who succeed over and over again in different areas aren't just lucky. They're good at making mistakes, sometimes even failing, and then learning from those failures and using that knowledge to help them to move forward.
Do you think trial 8 at a higher proof with a little more bite and nose might,
I haven't done 8 yet. I'm going 8 right now.
He doesn't have much of
the not much smoke on the nose.
No. That's always the question that we've had internally is how much smoke are we going to put in? That's what it is.
I think that from a taste for me, it's a little soft.
Yeah,
it's soft. I just don't know if it's a big enough difference to go ask for $30 or $20 a bottle more. What's the proof on that?
That's 80 proof, right?
Yes.
40%, right?
Yes.
I think a little hotter. Like an 85 would be.
Let's taste a range of.
I present
taste
you
a range
40,
of
45, 50 you wish.
Yeah,
40, 41, 42.
Hey, I like 50, but I don't want to go back to the days where kids are falling off.
I think 90.
I'm passionate and I'm uber competitive, and I think that's kind of what always drove me. My father was in the beverage alcohol business. I was trying to play golf for a living, actually, and I called him and I said, yeah, I guess I need to get a real job. So I'm thinking, he'll give me a nice cushy route, I'll have really good accounts. My dad gave me like the worst territory known to man in Colorado, and I was making, I think, like $15,000 a year, and I'm like, Dad, I can't even survive on this. And so about 6 months I was working for him, and a company called Seagram's came a-knocking and said, hey, you want to come work for us? They're going to pay me $22,500. I'm like, oh, that's a deal. I'm out of here. And I got to keep. They gave me a van, so I didn't have to have a car. And so I went to work for Seagram's, and I just felt like if I wasn't getting promoted like every year, then something was wrong, and I was aggressive. And moved 13 times in a 10-year career with them. So all that set me up to, really do what I thought I was going to be really good at, and that's not really have to work for somebody and, use all what I've hoped that I've learned over the years to build something. And so John Paul DeGioia and Martin Crowley had come to me and asked me if I wanted to come work for this brand Patron, and they made me basically a deal I couldn't refuse. And in the early days of Patron, there were maybe 5,000 cases, and it was, it's just this little boutique-ish brand, and we didn't produce our own tequila. We were a third-party manufacturer, and I knew that was way not the thing that we needed to do, so that's when I started to build this hacienda, and that's really started to be the game changer, because then I could have total control of what we were doing from a manufacturing and a marketing side. I've been in the business a long time, and I felt like, well, it just couldn't just be bottling and distillation and stuff like that. I really wanted to make a monument to the brand. In the beverage alcohol business, it's very difficult to advertise because there's regulations about television and the things that we can do. But I had this idea, well, if I can have a car going around a track with Patron all over it, I'm going to get it on television. I've tried to build the same culture on the race team that I have at Patron. So Scott Sharp and I became close, and I started sponsoring him, and he kept on saying, dude, you need to get in a race car. And I'm like, nah, I don't have time. And probably a couple years later, he goes, I bought you that car. And it was a Mazda MX-5, all in black and green with Patron on it. And I'm like, wow, that's cool, dude, thanks. But what am I going to do with it? He goes, this is the best part. For the next 4 days, we're going to teach you how to drive this race car. I raced those things for like 4 weeks, and he goes, dude, you got to get into bigger horsepower. And so that was when Sharp and I decided, I'm not going to mention any names. I've been with a lot of team owners over the years. They all lose their stomach for spending the money because racing's expensive. And so, you know, Scott and I at that time decided, we said, hey, you know, why don't we start our own team? We know how much it's going to cost, what it's going to do, and we'll be in control of our own destiny as far as a race team. So that's how Extreme Speed Motorsports and Scott, Extreme Speed, started. But it's always been Sharp, like shoving me along. Racing and running businesses has a lot of parallels. You know, the number one thing is teamwork on both sides, right? My partner, John Paul, he has a saying that's, you know, success unshared is failure. And I've really tried to live my life that way. And I'm not just talking to charities and giving money to that, but I really feel like it's taking care of my employees because they're the ones that got us here.
A lot of the gentlemen drivers have seen success in their business lives. They'll have seen failure too. And I think that's quite important because when they come to this sport, failure is more likely. No matter how good you are, behind the wheel of a car, you are a small cog in a very big team. If the rest of the team isn't working for you, you're not working for them, you're not going to win.
Laps going into here. I mean, you had a bunch of 57s.
I just need to get it right
yeah,
now.
Yeah.
When I first started racing at a high level, you know, everybody would kind of like tiptoe around me, and I'm like, no, please. You know, I'm just a worker here. You know, be brutally honest. And I've been very fortunate that teammates and engineers, they'll call me out.
Must work out.
Yeah, I mean, I could run 57
I know,
all day into here.
saying.
It just, I can't.
What's that?
That's that fast ride.
Dude, we're gonna get you flat. You just gotta suck it.
Well, I know I was turning in too early, and then
yeah,
I'm
you
running
gotta
out of
go
track.
way right and come back way left and do a late apex
Right.
across that hill. You just gotta make yourself believe. Yeah. Especially if you get on some good tires, and you drive it all the way down to that sign where you park it and turn.
Yeah, I hate that corner.
I know, but that's why you gotta go to the sign.
But there's just no vision there, that's why.
Sign. Sign's the key.
You're not anybody's boss here. And not only is it just good for you, generally speaking, as a human being, to have to be humble and occasionally embarrassed because you don't do things as well as your comrades, but also you discover that they have talents you didn't suspect. And I, for example, was amazed at how clever my co-drivers were at handling the media, for example. I was doing this every day as a CEO, but these guys had a way of talking back to the journalists. I thought, hey, I've got a lot to learn, even in things I thought I knew how to do.
Get him in the race.
A really great leader isn't someone who takes all the credit for himself. The most humble people tend to be the most confident. The people who are able to say, you know what, in this situation, you have more expertise than I do, so please tell me what to do, or give me some advice so that I can do what I'm doing better, they're the ones who actually have the most confidence in their ability, because by giving you the opportunity to instruct them, they don't feel like they are being seen as a lesser individual. And that's what makes people successful across a whole range of different endeavors.
I mean, I blew the S's twice. Okay, it came in way too hot. And then, I started getting a little bit of pace, but...
You picked it up better for the S's.
Right, well, I mean, I need a little help sometimes, and it's nice to hear where I'm blowing it, so...
Honestly, I used to prefer when I did racing that it was just me in the car. Because at the end of the day, if I screwed up, it was all on me.
For me, before getting in a car, if you ask me, do you get nervous? I do, but it's because I want to deliver. I don't want to be the guy
I don't want to
who
be the guy
drops
that
the ball.
disappoints my teammates.
Yep.
You're like
That's the
when
pressure.
Johannes tells me that he grabs me and he'll tell me he's proud of me. That's like greater than like any thing I do in business, you know.
There's no question.
Because it's like, here's a guy that drives for a living, and he was happy with what I did, you know. But I think for, like, you know, the gentleman driver, that's huge pressure that when you drive with a pro, you don't want, you know, you just don't want to disappoint them, and you don't want to be the guy that screws off the race, you know.
We're here in Bahrain for the final round of the 2015 FIA World Endurance Championships, the last 6 hours of the season, and all bar 2 championships are still up for grabs. It's been a real return to form for Aston Martin in the last couple of races, and here in Bahrain, I would think that Paul will be looking for at least a podium and possibly even a win. For Ed Brown, they've had a difficult year. Ed, I think, has grown as a driver, and they'll want a strong finish at the end of 6 hours for one or both of the cars. For Ricardo Gonzalez, well, his team car is going for the championship, so there's a role to play for the 28. But of course, they will want to get a good result here as well.
This is actually probably our busiest weekend as far as business goes outside the racetrack. I'm here trying to put together Ricardo's team for next year, and my main focus right now is how can I get the best combination of Ricardo, who's a gentleman driver, and our pro drivers. Basically, it's a big puzzle they got to put together. We're also finalizing the deal for the WEC race in Mexico next year. So it's kind of coming down to the wire, and you know, so every time we get a few free minutes, we're talking to people, we're negotiating deals. So I'll try to manage as much of it as possible, and then once Ricardo's done driving, then I can tell him about it, because yeah, you either drive or you focus on business. You can't do both at the same time.
The red lights are about to go out as we start the last 6 hours, and we're racing. The 2 Porsches get a decent start, but Fessler in the 7 Audi, very racy early on down the inside. He's into second place as they go down towards the first corner. No, Dumas has claimed back that second position. All kinds of bumping and boring in the LMP2 field. GTs still trying to sort themselves out. This is magnificent stuff in the early opening laps of the 6 hours of Bahrain.
This, for me, is when it's the toughest. You know, the butterflies are up, and really, you know, not sure how those first couple laps are going to be. So it's just trying to calm down a little bit. It's super close, so it makes me nervous but excited at the same time.
Permission to arrive late, missed autograph session and missed driver change practice. I received a call at 1 a.m. To review a contract. So we found a couple of mistakes in the contract. We're doing emails through the night, sending corrections, and at 8 a.m. I received the final copy of the contract, signed it, and went to bed.
Well, we've had a set of pit stops, but the battle at the head of LMP2 continues between the 2 teams who've been at it all season. KCMG, the 47 car, going ahead of the 26 machine. I'll have that position. Thank you very much indeed.
You're going to be in for just over your minimum, hour and 20, so those tires aren't going to have to last. Easy on them the first couple laps. You know, bring them in, just don't slide them, but then they don't have to last forever.
ASM Patron into the pits, and looks like Ed Brown is going to get in. In GTE, it's been another good run for Paul Dallalana and the rest of his team. Matthias Lauda still to drive that car. Would you believe it? The 31 car with more mechanical issues. Left rear suspension will bring that car into the pit lane. Oh, they've just had a rotten season. Ed Brown and ASM will be glad when this season's over.
We have hour and 17 minutes left. suspension members in the left rear broke on both cars. So we need to investigate why that happened and make sure it doesn't happen again.
I didn't love a whole lot about racing this past year, but when I got done with the season, I really started to analyze, what I need to do as a driver to go now to the next couple levels, and that's where the competitiveness comes in me. I could just sit there and say, hey, it's fun, we drive around, who cares? But I really don't want to do it if I can't win.
Well, Paul Dallalana in the number 98 Aston has kept that car in contention for the win here in Bahrain. Very strong run indeed from the Canadian. He's done a sterling job in the middle of the race.
We're in P1 right now. I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I think 88, who's in second, has a really strong finishing driver. So outside chance at a win, but more than likely a podium and third overall in the championship this year. So not unhappy with that, but a year of something could have been better. It goes back to Le Mans.
When I got out of the car, I thought the team was going to say, you didn't do good. And when I got out of the car, I said, hey, you were hauling ass.
The Aston and the Porsche 911 are neck and neck going into chicane. The 98 Aston has the better line. That's a pass for position. Second place, marvellous work.
We're at risk.
There's no debate here. You're going on the podium as well.
No,
you absolutely are. So listen, we send one of the boys to the room, they scoop everything up, and they meet you at the airport.
Or we'll go there and just like that.
Just risk it.
9:30.
Just risk it.
The option is that we have to go to the 205 flight or whatever.
Risk it.
Okay.
Come on, doesn't happen very often. Yeah, and you know what to do. You know the procedure.
Yeah.
Give you a little
Okay,
talk.
good.
Everybody's happy.
Are you up to it?
Let's see.
A late overtake by the 98 Aston Martin has put them into first position into the final corner of the season. It's going to be away. The disappointment of Le Mans now behind them. And that will give them third in the GT Championship for the season.
Let's go. Thank you.
It was a fun moment on the podium, even despite the time pressure to make a flight. It's one of the challenges for me in terms of racing, that being home and being available on Monday morning is a huge priority.
And the winners, number 98, Aston Martin Racing.
My raison d'etre for racing is really simple. I wanted to achieve two things. One was to push myself to the limit and find out, if I could do the sport at a high level. The second thing, of course, is winning, and not so much the glory, although it's nice to be acknowledged, but I get more satisfaction out of my competitors acknowledging that, here's this person that was a late starter, maybe in some ways, shouldn't even be here, and yet is up on the podium celebrating and achieving, these results.
There's a spectrum of behaviors that is called imposter syndrome. And it's the idea that you've risen to a particular level, but if people really knew who you were, they might realize that you don't deserve that. And so one of those markers, one of those choice points in people's lives is, how do I deal with that sensation that I may not yet deserve to be where I am? Do I let that sensation guide my actions and keep me from success? Or do I actually use that as a motivation to continue working and try and achieve that success? And for people who are in that situation, it's actually rarer for someone to work hard and succeed than it is for people to give into that. It's much easier to give in.
I started Northwest about 25 years ago, just recently out of college and a brief career on Wall Street. and realized pretty early that I liked real estate and really started looking for, the opportunity to buy and invest in various types of real estate. And, more recently, probably in the last 10 years, we've come to focus almost exclusively on healthcare real estate, which is a bit strange because in Canada, we have a public health system and the governments of provincial governments own the vast majority of healthcare real estate, hospitals and the like. But we found a pretty interesting niche, and it's one that's really playing out around the world. And so over the last 10 years, we've really become a very significant owner of healthcare real estate, in Europe, in Australia, in New Zealand, in South America, and of course in Canada. Clearly completing the merger with Northwest International was the biggest thing we've been able to accomplish. But I think that leaves us in a great position, but how do we make it even better? And what do we think about sort of, further down the line? So, maybe thinking out past 2016 and the big opportunities of the business. Yeah. I started Northwest with one property and really running it by myself with a cell phone and no office, to now, having, hundreds of people working for the company and hundreds of properties. So it's been an incredible journey, and I think, as a public company now, as an entrepreneur, and in particular, as the person in charge of the strategy for the business, I find, myself wearing two hats every day and coming in here and are we on plan and are we capable of both hitting our quarters and our year, and at the same time, being the chief disruptor and coming in and saying, let's think about what we could do totally differently, and how could this be 10x? And so, it's a very interesting tension, and I find, that to be really rewarding. Learning by doing seems to be a common theme for me. It's very much the way that it happened at the start of my business career. And I think racing's pretty similar to that for me. And so it's been a very interesting journey in racing. I would say I'm an accidental gentleman driver in that although I've enjoyed racing over the years, and I can remember, even meeting my wife at a Formula One event, my journey into the sport happened quite recently, and that was, going to a track day with a friend, having never driven a car on a racetrack before then, never had done go-karting. I showed up as green as you can be, and I think after the first lap, I knew that it was something that I wanted to do, and enrolled the next week in racing school and started the week after that. I think I always considered myself a good driver and somebody that appreciated cars, and I very quickly found out that I didn't know the first thing about it. And so it was a real eye-opener that I had a whole lot to learn. So in addition to racing and business, recently I find myself involved in another new initiative, which is philanthropy. And I've become affiliated with the University of Toronto School of Public Health. Howard, nice to see you. Yeah, thanks.
The Dalhousie School of Public Health is one of the world's leading institutions for training and research in population health. It's about looking at millions of people and figuring out how we can prevent disease from happening rather than simply spend the dollars on treating disease.
It's early days, but really enjoying helping the university tackle some of the most difficult problems that exist in the world.
What's very important for me is to get the contracts done right now.
Yes.
We need to focus on selling sponsorship.
The way we did it in Austin is you create basically kind of a base package. So you take that and say, okay, here's what we're putting together. We're still working out the final details, but you need to have this put in your budget. The estimated cost will be $300,000 US, right? So they go take that $300,000, that becomes a placeholder in their budget for 2016. So it's like, okay, here are the contemplated assets, here's the price, and we'll have the final packages to you by, March 31st.
Yeah, and what we can say is that whoever buys those is going to be for 3 years.
Yeah, it's a 3 year
deal. If you
deal.
want to be in, it's now.
Well, and I think the key, the sales hook is saying there are only so many packages, right? That that there's one title sponsor and that's sold. There's one presenting sponsor, and there are 5 or 6 of these.
I don't want anything under 300,000 because there's appetite. So we don't want to be selling for less than that.
Right.
And what happens if the packages we are out and?
Yeah, more.
What?
Yeah,
what is it?
If you sell out, we can always.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, we can always create.
But it's going to happen.
You guys are all high-profile business guys, right? Is it different now than when it was a startup, like the drive of it, or
So here's me. I'm competitive, and so I sit there and I'm like, wow, Patron's worth X amount of billions. That's awesome. But how did this guy with this stupid little internet company, he's worth 40 billion? And it motivates me, and it drives me, and it drives me crazy. So it pushes me to continue to say, okay, I got to keep pushing. And to me, it's not about the money. It's more about winning or losing. And it's like, whether it's racing or business or whatever, I want to win.
The business is business, and it's kind of just, for me, it's more about, it's the means to an end, That's basically just a tool so I get to go and do all the things that I really want to do.
But when you said that you retired, or you sold your company,
yeah, I sold them,
and then you got bored, you had the money,
I started racing.
then
I started racing, because what are you going to do, right? Sit around and garden? No way.
I used to love the early days of Patron. I don't get to do the things I used to love to do, like working in the bars and showing people why it was better and stuff like that, but that's what happens.
So would you give up the money and go back and do that?
Probably not.
Silverstone, in the centre of the United Kingdom, is the traditional start of the European Le Mans Series. Traditional weather as well, greeting the teams and drivers. United Autosport's one of the favourites. They've got a new driver this year, Mike Gouache.
It's raining. Get all this new kit, right? Where you get it all soaking wet and muddy and crappy, and it is what it is. This is our first race. It's very important. Obviously, we need it as an establishing point. We've got an all-new driver lineup, and it's important because we've got sponsors, potential sponsors coming. We have lots of customers coming, so we need to show well.
This is a little bit of an unusual weekend as far as automobile racing is concerned. 2 big series racing separately on the same weekend at the same circuit. The World Endurance Championship, 6 Hours of Silverstone, is tomorrow. Teams are already in the main paddock preparing for that. Maybe the weather might improve by then, but that's not the case today for the European Le Mans Series, 4 Hours of Silverstone. Lots of rain should make for a very interesting race indeed. Coming to the rolling start, about to get underway, it's slippery. Oh, there's a spinner in the background. And that's Leo Russell into the wall in the Pegasus LMP2. What an astonishing start here at Silverstone. There's long ups into the first corner, cars going off the circuit wide. Right in the middle of the shot, just going to the right there, that's the LMP3 leader, Alex Brundle for United Autosports. That's a brand new team to this championship in their first race.
So far, less than 25 minutes into the race, we're running first and second. Could get better than this.
LMP3 leader from United Autosports, the number 2 car in the pits, Alex Brundle, who's done a great job on a very difficult day. He's getting out, Mike Gouache getting in for his first stint.
Yeah, it was pretty sketchy through the first couple of corners. There were a couple of shunts we managed to dodge, and then luckily able to get up into P1, and then pulled a little gap. So all's going well so far. But there's, it's only 1 hour of the race gone. There's a long way to go. So we'll wait and see.
Last year, I was only a driver. I got to have a lot of fun with my teammates, very young teammates actually, 21 and 25 years old. And so just having fun. But now this year, things change.
The team looks up to me more as the boss or the leader of the team, so I think I have to behave a little bit more. And not being happy with the extra work of team owner. I'm now the promoter for the Mexico race,
and that's very exciting. Being able, if we win, to win with the Mexican anthem, and I think it's going to be very important for our country.
LMP3 leader, United Autosport in the pit lane. They've done a cracking job with both cars.
I haven't driven this car on this track in the rain at all, so I just take it easy because it's, you see all the yellow flags, all the red flags, everyone's going off. I mean, try to be a hero, it's not going to do you any good. So it's just all about being really cautious. Go as fast as you can, but be really cautious.
It's been a great run in pace and in strategy from United Autosports. Their number 2 car is leading, but it's starting to rain. That could throw a cat among the pigeons.
We just got a full course yellow. We're leading the race. We still need to get fuel. One more pit stop, which is about a 40-second pit stop. So we're getting it right now and under yellow, which is perfect. So if we get it out here, we're going to put maybe 5 gallons in it, just a little splash and go. There you go right now. So we've got a 1-minute lead. So nail biter.
So about half a lap to go for United Autosport, trying to hold on to that position. A little bit of concern in the pit lane. We know they think they're tight on fuel. That car is going very, very slow indeed. It's not up to pace. It's going to stagger over the line. It's a win. It's a win for United Autosport. Zach Brown and Richard Dean lead the celebrations in the pit garage. What a great run.
Fuckers almost got us. They fucked up our fuel. We'll come and see you next time. Wow. Let's go to the podium. Get some champagne. Yeah.
The LMP3 podium, United Autosports. What a win for them. It's a new day and a new race at Silverstone. It's still quite cold, but the rain has stopped and the sun's come out for the start of the 2016 World Endurance Championship season. The LMP1s at the front of the field have more technology than put man on the moon, and they're nearly as quick as a Saturn V as well. The lights are out, 6 hours are on the clock, and we're racing at Silverstone. Audi, Audi, Porsche, Porsche, Toyota, Toyota, down towards the first right-hander. Look at the LMP2 battle. Was there a little touch there in the midfield? 1, 2, 3, 4 wide at one point, I counted. New livery for Aston Martin for 2016. And that dark grey and yellow number 98 has not been keeping pace in GT EM. Well, this is interesting. The red and black car is RGR, the new team for Ricardo Gonzalez. Bruno Senna at the wheel. The orange and black car that he's about to pass is the former team that he raced with. Great move by Senna.
Right now, we're second, but people over there pitted early for some reason, which is strange, but I think that's good for us. Things are looking pretty good right now, and Ricardo's going to go in right now, and we'll see how he goes. He's going to do his first stint as a team owner.
Great LMP2 action. Very, very close indeed. 31 ASM car in traffic. G-Drive coming through as well. Then RGR, it's very tight. Into the pits for Ed Brown, who's in the number 30 Tequila Patron ASM car this season. So far, it's not been a great start to the season for the ESM team.
That seat is so fucking bad. So fucking bad.
So I had to lift myself up, you know, to like hold my butt down in a corner. It's terrible.
I think that was my worst stint ever. I got to tell you, I got punted off twice. Yeah. And then I made a couple mistakes.
You're running pretty consistently there.
For a bit, and then it's just frustrating. I got to tell you, I really feel like I left a lot out there. So I'd say at least 25 seconds for mistakes.
Each of the classes have their own results and own podium, and in LMP2 there's a big story brewing here.
We got 18 minutes to go. We're leading right now, so it's a little nerve-wracking right now, but hopefully we start our team with a win in our first race ever.
Ricardo Gonzalez made the jump from driver to team manager. And the fairy story has come true. RGR take the victory at Silverstone. A maiden victory for Ricardo Gonzalez's team. Along with Albuquerque and Senna, it's been a hard-fought victory. Totally deserved, and what a way to promote the 6 Hours of Mexico.
For me, I think humility is everything. You have to give credit to the people when they deserve it. I love working with the team and just getting in the car and just trying to do the max out of what you have and then sharing that with teammates. I think that's what I enjoy. It's not that much of winning or not winning, it's just being there, being part of it.
There's a lot of research on the relationship between being an entrepreneur and what's called your risk tolerance. And it might look from the outside like entrepreneurs are willing to be more risky than most people. In fact, what they do is to learn enough so that they believe that the thing that they're doing actually isn't that risky. And I think the same thing is true with racing. My guess is that most of these gentlemen drivers don't see what they're doing as being all that risky. What they see is that they are engaging something that would be risky if they hadn't actually spent a lot of time learning how to do it properly.
This is my latest company, Molecule Labs. We've been around for about 2 years. What we do here is we make the fluids and the e-liquids for electronic cigarettes. A lot of people ask me about risk and all the risks I'm taking when I start businesses and how do I assess risk. For one thing, I'm not a gambler. Like I don't feel like any of this is a gamble. I look at these as very intelligent decisions, just that you need to do these things to go forward. It's slightly risky, especially when you're spending millions of dollars building a new facility on a new industry that's not regulated yet, but I try to look at the future and make a calculated decision and then don't look back. And it's like the same thing in a race car. I mean, it's one reason endurance racing has done me well, because it's something you got to think long term. It's not a sprint race. We have 4 hour, 6 hour, 12, 24-hour races. You don't take big risks. So it's worked out well for my personality. Get in there, go this 90, 95% all the time, but going 100, 105%, that's risky and not for me. We're now in charge of the branding of the new Smith & Baxter line. We're now on version 3. Once we do the physical mock-up, we're going to have to see if it changes just the look and feel on some of these. So the other alternative was just to do this square block for the flavors. But I do like the way we've color-coded the flavors, too.
They're very, very adult, and we don't see a lot of that in the industry today, right?
I agree. I'm happy with this, and I think the next round would be, changing up these, giving some iterations here, and I think we're going to be good to go. Going way back, my dad had a carpet cleaning company. So I grew up in that business, but after a few years of that, I realized there's something better for me out there. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that was not my calling. So I essentially sold all that off, and then I went into the consulting business to the industry, and I taught all these cleaning companies service techniques and sales techniques because I was really good at it. So that's when I started to get a feel for the chemical industry, because I worked for chemical companies that were selling into the cleaning industry. And I saw big giant manufacturing lines and giant tanks and bottles shooting off lines. I go, oh my God, this is cool. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about what it was. I just thought, manufacturing something and shipping out in volume and seeing pallets and trucks of stuff going out the back door, that was just, to me, extremely cool. So I said, I want to be in this business. And I ended up making millions of dollars doing it. And that allowed me the time and the ability to go back to racing because I had put it on hold for 20 years. Essentially, I started racing back when I was a kid, 18 years old. But at about 25 or 26, after a number of years of racing, I realized that I was racing different things, jet skis, motorcycles, doing very well as an amateur, could turn pro. Just didn't make sense. Financially, I was never going to make a living out of it, so I decided that's just not going to work for me. You know, I had to quit from 25 to 45, 20 years. I didn't get to race, so I said, oh, I'll go back to that, see if there's anything in it for me. So started slowly, you know, got into go-karts, and then I said, oh, I can do this, so I'm going to start a racing team. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So I bought race cars and semis and got a building, and, you know, I spent $1 million, whatever it was, and built a whole marketing business around this race team. That was a big mistake. I got my ass kicked, flat out kicked, embarrassingly kicked. Last place by, 20 seconds. 2 races of that, I just pulled off the national scene, came back to California, and then ran on the Western United States for about 3 years. Perfected my skill, then went back out to the national scene and actually won the national championship in 2009. This is my simulator that I use for practicing before I go to a racetrack that I don't know. Essentially to learn the track, learn the corners, learn the braking points. This is Silverstone, which we just raced a few weeks ago. We won, and I think the simulator is a big part of why I know the track before I get there. It's not as easy as it looks. A lot of people have said, it doesn't matter when you start at 5 years old, you're gonna be good at 15. You start at 25, you're gonna be good at 35. It just takes you 10 years to figure it out. And I didn't start till I was 45, 46 years old. So now it's starting to work. I really do need racing to keep me motivated. I train, I think, harder than most, right? Physically, well, hell, I'm older than everybody, so I've got to make up for it. But also, even if I wasn't, I'd be training just as hard, because if I'm not training, someone else is training. If I'm not practicing, someone else is practicing. So if they're getting better than I am at the time, then I'm going backwards. I feel the same way with business. If we're not pushing all the time, someone else is, and we're going to get behind.
Have you guys ever just kind of decided to take a big risk and completely had it go way wrong in business?
The race team.
Yes, I think you're right.
That's the only way you can become a millionaire. You're a billionaire, you open a race team, and then you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
You think you know it all, and then you try it. Oh, my God.
Not very profitable, the race team so far.
If you're trying to make money on the race team, you better stop.
No. I know that's not going to make money.
Getting ready for the 6 Hours of Mexico, which is a very special race for us. Not only because we're the only Mexican team, but actually because Ricardo's the promoter of this race, which means that he pretty much made all this happen. It's sold out, which is great for us. You know, it's the first time that the WEC comes here, so the fans are very excited. They haven't seen this type of cars ever, basically. And Ricardo has put in a lot of work. He's building a university. He's a team owner. He runs an insurance company, and now he is planning an event for 45,000 people. Honestly, I don't know how he does it.
We've had a hell of a year. but we'd love to win here. It's the birthplace of tequila and the birthplace of Patron. So, and you know, it makes it extra special because I got 600 employees coming to watch, and for them to be able to come here and have some cocktails, I'm sure it's going to be a day they won't ever forget.
Bringing the race to Mexico has been a big challenge just because it's the first time I do it. I don't think the promoting has taken away the fun part of racing. I just had very little sleep last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So I'm ready to start changing my hat into the driver hat, and I think people are pretty impressed of what we have done. And this is helping me a lot to forget my promoter duties.
Ricardo, expecting a huge crowd, the numbers sound really, really enthusiastic. How is that going to lift your team, especially carrying the Mexican flag?
It's going to be pressure. Yeah, we're expecting to have the track completely full. So it's going to be nice to see the start of the race. I know how Mexicans go wild, so we're going to enjoy that.
It's round 5 of the 2016 FIA World Endurance Championship, and we're at a brand new venue. It's Mexico City, and the man that we have to thank for bringing us to this cathedral of speed. We knew him last year as a driver. Now he owns his own team and he's the promoter of the race. Ricardo Gonzalez is a busy man. It's a brand new venue. I'm excited. The crowd's excited. I think the drivers are quite excited as well. It's time to go racing in Mexico City at altitude. This will be the fastest run down to the first corner that we'll have in the World Championship. The Audi side by side, then the two Porsches. Look at the CLM with the yellow wings coming through. The privateer cars are very quick indeed. The pole man's gone wide. Bruno Senna has cleared off in LMP2.
Okay, Bruno, we're P1 by about 20 seconds. Let's try to keep increasing that gap, okay? Okay, copy that.
This is about the second into the stadium section. Oh, too wide. And René Rast goes to second position for G-Drive. Great battles, not just at the lead of classes. This is 6th on down for LMP2. Pipo Derani in that green and black car trying to get a little better exit than Manassi, and he does. Oh, great move. On board with Bruno Senna. He's our cameraman at about 180 miles an hour there. Senna still leads in LMP2. Relatively short circuit here at Mexico means that traffic management is always going to be an issue. All the drivers have had to really concentrate. Hasn't been an awful lot of track time. None of them have raced here before. Good stint for Bruno Senna. He's out of the car. The third driver is the man who owns the team, Ricardo Gonzalez. Two blue lights on the side of the 43 RGR racing car. That means he's in second. That's the leader ahead. Gonzalez chasing him down. This could be another great story for the Mexican team on home ground.
Okay, Ricky, that's Rusinov ahead of you. Just be careful. He can get aggressive.
Gonzalez and Rusinov together coming into the chicane area. There was a touch there. Rusinov spins the Mexican, and Gonzalez is in trouble now. He's not facing the right direction. There's not enough room there. He's going to have to find reverse. Stay calm. Needs to be talking to him on the radio. Oh, almost reverses out into the Dempsey Proton Porsche. That could have been disaster. Well, Ricardo Gonzalez has got the car back on the track.
Okay, just stay calm. Let's stay calm. Let's get back up to speed, okay?
Not sure that Philippe Albuquerque nearest us and Bruno Senna, who's just behind him, there he is. Not sure they know if they... Well, Felipe thinks they've got a chance and Bruno doesn't. They've checked the car over, given him some more fuel, and now he has to try and get his pulse rate down and focus, focus, focus.
Ricky and Rusinov, they got in contact. It's pretty hard to say who was the fault. Ricardo now is very stressed on the radio, like he wants to drive through for Rusinov. Our car is fine. I don't know if Rusinov is fine because he just went wide now. But it's racing. But we need to keep it cool.
Oh, there's an Aston in the barriers. The 98 car, Paul Dallalana's gone off. Yellow flags are out. Here's another look. Coming into the stadium section, too much curb on the left-hand side by the Ford, and Paul Dall'Anna is bumped unceremoniously off the circuit and into the barriers. Let's hope that isn't a repeat of the more. No, it's not. The car is still running, and I think he'll get it out of there. Well, there's damage to the left front, but Paul Dall'Anna will get the Aston back to the pits.
We've had to come in for some pretty big repairs. I think we've lost 5 laps now, so very frustrating sort of way to end up. We were starting to make our way back through the field, so in any event, it's a tight circuit. I guess we always knew there was going to be a chance for this, and just hoping it wasn't going to be us.
Okay, Philippe, we're currently second, 30 seconds behind the G-Drive car. We gotta push, let's go get him.
We're hearing from race control, they are predicting more bad weather before the end of the race. LMP2 leader has just had a problem. The brake disc has exploded on the right front. My goodness! That's extraordinary! René Rast brings the car in the pit lane. A huge blow to the class leader. Now we'll have to see how quickly they can get that car back out onto the track. And the crowd on the start-finish line have realised that this means that the local Mexican team are going to go through and lead the motor race.
G-Drive had a problem, so we're back to first. Let's do this, let's bring it home, come on. Shit! Okay, let's keep it tight, let's go on.
We're in first place, 2 minutes left. It's raining in sections of the track, 3-second gap. So it's nerve-wracking right now.
What a story is unfolding here. The team can barely look as we're into the last lap of the 6 hours of Mexico. But you've got to cross the line to get it.
You got a 3-second gap, you gotta be really careful, it's really slippery everywhere. Don't worry, all under control, don't worry, don't worry.
This is one of those moments that only happens in endurance racing. The 43 RGR racing car put together by the man in the middle there, Ricardo Gonzalez, an insurance salesman turned racing driver, turned race promoter, and now turned Mexico race winner. Has found a Mexican flag. Where did he have that? In the glove box? And the celebrations will go on long into the Mexican night here. This is a moment to savour for Ricardo Gonzalez. The gentleman driver who has put this team together and this race together is standing on top of the podium in Mexico City tonight. He is living the dream.
jumped in big this year. You know, going from just racing and being on a team to having your own team, you know, it's a big jump.
Yeah, but the event took a toll on me physically and time-wise, and
because it was you.
You know, we noticed that because you won the race and shit like that.
They feel real bad for you.